the General Overseas Service of All India Radio presents readings from an autobiography or the story of my experiments with truth. The reading from the autobiography is presented by Sri Gopalkrishna Gandhi, writer, teacher, and the youngest grandson of Kasturba Gandhi and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. The words of the Mahatma in the voice of his grandson.
I had put in scarcely 3 or 4 months' practice, and the Congress also was still in its infancy, when a Tamil man in tattered clothes, headgear in hand, 2 front teeth broken, and his mouth bleeding, stood before me, trembling and weeping. He had been heavily belaboured by his master. Balasundaram, as that was the visitor's name, was serving his indenture under a well-known European resident of Durban. The master, getting angry with him, had lost control and beaten Balasundaram severely, breaking 2 of his teeth. I sent him to a doctor. In those days, only white doctors were available. I wanted a certificate from the doctor about the nature of the injury Balasundaram had sustained. I secured the certificate and straightway took the injured man to the magistrate, to whom I submitted his affidavit. The magistrate was indignant when he read it and issued a summons against the employer. It was far from my desire to get the employer punished. I simply wanted Balasundaram to be released from him. The magistrate convicted Balasundaram's employer. Balasundaram's case reached the ears of every indentured labourer, and I came to be regarded as their friend. I hailed this connection with delight. A regular stream of indentured labourers began to pour into my office, and I got the best opportunity of learning their joys and sorrows. In the same year, 1894, the Natal government sought to impose the annual tax of £25 on the indentured Indians. The proposal astonished me. We organized a fierce campaign against this tax. To set up a household was no new experience for me, but the establishment in Natal was different from the ones that I had in Bombay and London. This time, part of the expense was solely for the sake of prestige. I thought it necessary to have a household in keeping with my position as an Indian barrister in Natal and as a representative. So I had a nice little house in a prominent locality. It was also suitably furnished. By now, I had been 3 years in South Africa. I had established a fairly good practice and could see that people felt the need of my presence. So I made up my mind to go home, fetch my wife and children, and then return and settle out there. I also saw that if I went home, I might be able to do there some public work by educating public opinion and creating more interest in the Indians of South Africa. The £3 tax was an open sore, and there could be no peace until it was abolished. But who was to take charge of the Congress work and Education Society in my absence? I could think of only 2 men, Adamji Mia Khan and Parsi Rustamji. I recommended the late Adamji Mia Khan's name to the Congress. Experience showed that the choice was a very happy one. Adamji Mia Khan satisfied all with his perseverance, liberality and courtesy. About the middle of 1896, I sailed for home in the SS Pongola, which was bound for Calcutta. At the end of 24 days, the pleasant voyage came to a close, and admiring the beauty of the Hooghly, I landed at Calcutta. The same day, I took the train for Bombay. I went straight to Rajkot without halting at Bombay and began to make preparations for writing a pamphlet on the situation in South Africa. The writing and publication of the pamphlet took about a month. It had a green cover and came to be known afterwards as the Green Pamphlet. In it, I drew a purposely subdued picture of the conditions of Indians in South Africa. Whilst busy in Rajkot with the pamphlet on South Africa, I had an occasion to pay a flying visit to Bombay. It was my intention to educate public opinion in cities on this question by organizing meetings, and Bombay was the first city I chose. I wanted to see Sir Firoz Shah Mehta, the Lion of Bombay, the uncrowned king of the presidency. Sir Firoz Shah carefully listened to me. "Gandhi," said he, "I see that I must help you. I must call a public meeting here." There had hardly been time for me to think about my speech. In accordance with Sir Firoz Shah's instructions, I reported myself at his office at 5 p.m. on the eve of the meeting. "Is your speech ready, Gandhi?" he asked. "No, sir," said I, trembling with fear. "I think of speaking extempore. That will not do in Bombay. Reporting here is bad, and if we would benefit by this meeting, you should write out your speech, and it should be printed before daybreak tomorrow. I hope you can manage this." Sir Firoz Shah liked the speech, and I was supremely happy. From Bombay, I went to Pune. First, I met Lokmanya Tilak. He said, "You are quite right in seeking the help of all parties. There can be no difference of opinion on the South Africa question. I want to help you to the fullest extent. Of course, you will meet me whenever you like. I am at your disposal." This was my first meeting with the Lokmanya. It revealed to me the secret of his unique popularity. Next, I met Gokhale. I found him on the Ferguson College grounds. He gave me an affectionate welcome, and his manner immediately won my heart. With him, too, this was my first meeting, and yet it seemed as though we were renewing an old friendship. Sir Firoz Shah had seemed to me like the Himalaya, the Lokmanya like the ocean, but Gokhale was the Ganges. I next proceeded to Madras. It was wild with enthusiasm. The Balasundaram incident had made a profound impression on the meeting. My speech was printed and was for me fairly long, but the audience listened to every word with attention. The affection showered on me by most of the friends I met, and their enthusiasm for the cause was so great that in spite of my having to communicate with them in English, I felt myself entirely at home. What barrier is there that love cannot break? From Madras, I proceeded to Calcutta, where I found myself hemmed in by difficulties. I knew no one there. I had, of course, to see Surendranath Banerjee, the idol of Bengal. When I met him, he was surrounded by a number of friends. He said, "I am afraid people will not take interest in your work. As you know, our difficulties here are by no means few, but you must try as best as you can." I saw that my task was becoming more and more difficult. I called at the office of the Amrita Bajar Putrika. The gentleman whom I met there took me to be a wandering Jew. The Bongobashi went even better. The editor kept me waiting for an hour. He had evidently had many interviewers, but he would not so much as look at me, even when he had disposed of the rest. On my venturing to broach my subject after the long wait, he said, "Don't you see our hands are full? There is no end to the number of visitors like you. You'd better go. I am not disposed to listen to you." But I was not discouraged. I kept on seeing editors of other papers. In Calcutta, I received the following cable from Durban: "Parliament opens January. Return soon." So I addressed a letter to the press in which I explained why I had to leave Calcutta so abruptly and set off for Bombay.
You just heard the reading from the Autobiography of Mahatma Gandhi, presented by Shri Gopalkrishna Gandhi, the youngest grandson of Kasturba Gandhi and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi.